Hi, boys and girls. For our lesson today, we're going to be learning about characters and setting. Characters and setting are two very important parts of a story. For our lesson objective today, it is that students will be able to identify characters and setting in a text. This just means by the end of the lesson, you'll be able to tell a parent, friend, or even a classmate about a character and setting, and in any book you'll read, you'll be able to know exactly what they are. Good readers use this skill all the time. So, for our schedule for today, we have 5 things on our schedule. The first thing we're going to do is talk about the characters and setting in a story. To be able to use the skill when you're reading, you have to know what it is at first. The second thing we're going to do is read aloud a book called The Recess Queen. I'm going to be reading it to you guys. The third thing, after we read the story, we are then going to talk about the characters and setting from The Recess Queen. This is going to be our practice together just so we can get the skill down together. The fourth thing is that you guys are going to practice it on your own then. You're going to show me what you learned. And the last thing on our schedule for the day is you guys are going to just do a quick check for understanding that shows me that you got it down and are going to be able to tell a parent, classmate, or anyone that you know what characters and setting are. All right, for the first topic of the day, we have characters. The characters are who the story is about, and characters are the people, animals, or even creatures in a story. So, for example, I just put a couple examples on here. For a person, I put a teacher. We could read a story about a teacher and how she likes to teach math because she has this clipboard, and that would be a character. One of my favorite stories that has a character that's an animal is called The Lion King. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it and maybe even read the story too. But one of the characters in the story is a lion. And right here we have our monster and creature. I know a lot of you probably like Monsters, Inc. or have seen it and read the story. That would be a character too, a monster or a creature. So boys and girls, you have to remember that a character does not just have to be a person. A character is who the story is about. Characters are the people, animal, or even creatures in the story. Make sure you remember that so then when we practice this skill, we're masters at it. The next part for characters and setting is the setting. So the setting has 2 parts to it. The setting is when and where the story takes place. So when the story happens could mean the time of day, the season, or even the year. I just put a couple examples up here just so we could see what I'm talking about for when. The first example I have up here is a girl with a beach ball in the water during the day. We can see that it's during the day because it's light out. So the when of the setting would be at noon during summer. We know it's summer probably because she's outside and it's light outside. Remember, during the day means it's light outside. When it's dark, it means it's night. The second example I have is right here, and it's on a rocket in the future. We know this maybe if we read more about what the story was, but it doesn't look like how it looks for us right now, right? So it's in the future on a rocket. So like I said, it could be years before or after, or during the time of day, or even season. And the last example I have for when is on Halloween 100 years ago. So stories that we read are not always going to be happening right now. They could have happened a long time ago. And the author will tell us that in the book, or even by using picture clues to tell us when a story happened. So the second part of setting is where. So that's the place the story is happening. Always think of the place. So I have a couple examples here too. I have outside and it is in the snow. A girl's playing outside in the snow. The second one I have underwater in the ocean. That could be a place. And in school. Those are all places. So these are not the only examples of when and where for the setting, but there are just a few that I wanted to put on this poster just so you guys could see. Now, I created a little chart for us to see because we have read all these books aloud in class together, so we can discuss the characters and setting for these books. The first book that we read together in class, it was a little while back, but try to remember. The first book is called Know David. So, we just reviewed characters and setting. So I remember what I just said, the setting is when and where a story happens. So I have to think, when and where Know David happened. So I remember the story was about David getting trouble in his house because he was doing bad things. So the setting of Know David would be in David's house. Now the characters for Know David. Well, I get a hint in the title. The title is called Know David. So I know one of the characters is David. And remember, his parents were always telling him to stop, David, don't do that. So his parents were another character in the story. And boys and girls, there can be more than one character in the story. Please remember that for our skill today. The second story that we read aloud in class that I have on this chart is called The Rainbow Fish. So, now remember, the setting is when and where a story happens. So, if we think back to that story, we know the story is about a fish, right? And where do fish live? In the ocean, right? So the story or the setting took place in the ocean. And for the characters of the Rainbow Fish, well, again, the author gives us a clue in the title of who the story is going to be about. The Rainbow Fish, good. That is a character of the Rainbow Fish. And last but not least, we have Pete the Cat and the Missing Cupcakes. Ooh, I remember a lot of you love this book that we read aloud in class. So now I gotta think when and where the story took place. So I remember Pete the Cat and the Missing Cupcakes was about Pete and his friend Gus, and they were making cupcakes, and some of them were disappearing. So if I know they were making cupcakes, they were in a kitchen, right? So part of the setting was inside Pete's house. And remember at the very end when they caught the other animal trying to eat all the cupcakes and they went outside? That would be inside and outside of Pete's house would be the setting. And for characters, again, the author gives us a clue in the title of who the story is going to be about because it says Pete the Cat. So one of our characters is Pete the Cat and his friend Gus. Those were the two making the cupcakes together. So those were two characters. And like I said, boys and girls, characters, there can be more than one character in a story. All right, boys and girls, we just finished the first thing on our schedule, which was to talk about characters and setting. So one more time, setting is when and where the story happens. So remember, when means the time of day, if it's light outside, if it's night, the year, if it happened now or a long time ago or in the future. It could even be a season. And the author might give you guys clues using pictures or in the title of what the setting will be. And we also talked about characters. Remember, characters are who the story is about. And characters can be people, animals, and even creatures. Make sure we remember this when we practice this for our read aloud. All right, we are on the second thing for the day. I am now going to read a book to you guys called The Recess Queen. This is the book. So remember, good readers use the skill we just learned. They think about the characters and setting while they're reading a story or while they're listening to one. So, one last time, characters are who the story is going to be about. So remember, I said authors can maybe give you hints in the title or with pictures of characters and setting. And characters can be people, animals, or creatures. And the setting is when and where the story took place. So boys and girls, please be very good readers right now and pay attention to what I'm reading to you and if you can know the characters and setting. All right, The Recess Queen. Written by Alexis O'Neill and illustrated by, that means who drew the pictures, Laura Hulska-Beath. The Recess Queen. What are we looking for again in our reading? If you said characters and setting, you're absolutely right. Those are the two skills we're practicing today. The Recess Queen. And remember, like I said, the author and illustrator might give us clues about who the story is going to be about, so the characters and the setting by seeing the pictures. Okay. Mean Jean was Recess Queen, and nobody said any different. Nobody swung until Mean Jean swung. Nobody kicked until Mean Jean kicked. Nobody bounced until Mean Jean bounced. If kids ever crossed her, she'd push 'em, smush 'em, lollapaloosh them, hammer 'em, slammer 'em, kids and pajama 'em. Say what? Mean Jean growled. Say who? Mean Jean howled. Say you. Just who do you think you're talking to? Mean Jean always got her way. Until one day. Remember, boys and girls, during the story readers, practice the skill of knowing who the characters and setting are. A new kid came to school, Katie Sue. A teeny kid, a tiny kid, a kid you might scare with a jump and a boo. But when the recess bell went riggedy ring, this kid ran ziggity zing for the playground gate. Katie Sue swung before Mean Jean swung. Katie Sue kicked before Mean Jean kicked. Katie Sue bounced before Mean Jean bounced. The kid you might scare with a jump and a boo was too new to know about Mean Jean and the Recess Queen. Well, Mean Jean bullied through the playground crowd. Like always, she pushed kids and smushed kids, lollapaloosh kids, hammered them, slammered them, kids and kajammered them, as she charged after that Katie Sue. Say what? She growled. Say who? She howled. Say you. She snarled and grabbed Katie Sue by the collar. Nobody swings until Queen Jean swings. Nobody kicks until Queen Jean kicks. Nobody bounces until Queen Jean bounces. And she figured that would set the record straight. She figured wrong. Katie Sue talked back. Just as sassy as she could be, she said, "How did you get so bossy?" Then that punny thing, that loony thing, grabbed the ball and bounced away. Oh, Katie Sue was sure one quick kid. She bolted quick as lightning. Bouncity, bouncity, bounce. Kickity, kickity, kick. Swingity, swingity, swing. Mean Jean thundered close behind. Bouncity, kickity, swingity. The Recess Queen was not amused. She raced and chased, in your face, that Katie Sue. No one spoke, no one moved, no one breathed. Then, from her pack, pulled Katie Sue a jump rope clean and bright. "Hey, Jeanie Beanie," sang Katie Sue, "let's try this jump rope out. Here's one thing true, until that day, no one dared ask Mean Jean to play." But that Katie Sue just hopped and jumped and skipped away. "I like ice cream, I like tea. I want Jean to jump with me." Jean just gasped and stared as if too scared to move at all. So Katie Sue sang once more. I like popcorn, I like tea. I want Jean to jump with me. Then from the side, a kid called out, Go, Jean, go! And too surprised to even shout, Jean jumped in with Katie Sue. I like cookies, I like tea. I want you to jump with me. The rope whizzed and slapped. Faster, faster, the rope spun and flapped. Faster, faster, till it caught in a tangled disaster. But they just giggled and jumped again. Well, now when recess rolls around, that playground's one great place. At the school bells ringety-ring, those two girls race ziggity-zing out the classroom door. Jean doesn't push kids and smush kids, lollapaloosh kids, hammer 'em, slammer 'em, kids and kajammer 'em, 'cause she's having too much fun rompity-romping with her friends. Bouncity, kickity, swingity, hoppity, skippity, jumpity, ringity, zingity, yes. All right, boys and girls, I really hope you love that story. It's one of my favorites. So now, back to our schedule. We just finished reading aloud The Recess Queen. We now are going to talk about the characters and setting from that book. We're going to use our skill together that we just learned about. So, let's think back to the book. So for characters, what are characters again? If you said who the story is about, and they can be animals, people, or creatures, you're exactly right. So now we have to think about from the story The Recess Queen. I have to think, were there people in the story? Well, yeah, right? They were students. And they were at recess, so I know there were people in the story. Were there any animals in the story? No. And were there any monsters? No. But there were people, so we do have characters. Now, use your big, big brains and think. Who were the characters in the story that I just read to you? Let's think back. I'll even show you guys the front cover, because the author gave us a clue of who the story is going to be about on the front cover and with the title. Who was the first character that the author talked about? If you said Mean Jean, you are exactly right. Mean Jean was the first character that the author talked about and showed a picture of on the front cover. So like I said, the author gave us a clue of who the characters were going to be in the story. There was another character in the story. Does anyone remember who it was? If you said Katie Sue, you are exactly right. This was Katie Sue, and she was a character in the story. Remember, she was the one that helped change Mean Jean's mind about on playground and recess how to be friends and play with everyone. All right, now moving on to our other skill. What was our other skill for today? If you said setting, you're exactly right. Now, what is the setting again? If you said when and where a story happens, correct. So we have this little chart right here for characters and setting. We already have our characters, right? We said Mean Jean was the first character that the author introduced to us. And then the second character, the person that got Mean Jean to change her mind about being nice on the playground was, yes, Katie Sue. So these are our two characters. Now, like we said, setting is when and where the story took place. So we have to think about what time of day it was. Was it light outside? Was it dark? Was it during, in the future, or happening right now? We got to think about that. So take a second to think to yourself when you think the setting of the story was. If you said during the day at recess, you're exactly right. We know that it's during the day because the book was about how Mean Gene was really mean to students on the playground, right? During recess. So recess happens at school time, and recess is also during the day because it's kind of during the afternoon, either before or after lunch, right? So if you said on the recess playground during the day, you're exactly right. So this is our setting now. All right, boys and girls, one more time. What are characters? If you said the people, animals, or creatures in the story, you're right. And what is setting? When and where a story happens. Yes, exactly. So back to our lesson objective, you guys are going to be able to tell a parent, friend, adult that you know what characters are and setting. So now, with this lesson that I just taught, and you guys did so awesome today, thank you for helping me teach you characters and setting. And now we're going to be able to use this skill and be awesome readers while we read, because we'll know who the characters and what the setting is. I have a PowerPoint for you guys that I would like you to review. On the PowerPoint is all the information we just talked about with pictures, and you guys are going to see a little button or emoji that looks like this on the PowerPoint. Please click on it and press play. This button has my voice, and it tells you guys exactly what to do, and again, re-explains what we just learned about, which was characters and setting in the story. Please go through the PowerPoint in order. So that means go on the slides just as they come. You are then going to get to a slide that was on our schedule, which is the fourth thing, that is the practice it on your own. So you get to show me what you learned. Depending on the sheet that you get, there's two different sheets. There's this sheet at first. So for this sheet, if you get it, you're going to be drawing a character and a setting, and you're either going to be labeling the pictures, which means you're going to tell me who you drew in the picture and where the setting was, or you're going to be writing sentences about it to tell me and describe it. So if you have this worksheet, that's what you're doing. The directions are also on the PowerPoint as well. This is the second sheet. If you have this sheet, you are just drawing a picture of a character and a setting. Make sure when you draw these pictures that I know exactly what you're trying to show me. So which character it was and what the setting was. And then you are going to get, after that slide, you are going to get to the check for understanding. The quick check for understanding is on what we call a Google form. You guys are going to be answering 6 questions for me. There are 2 options for each question, and they have pictures and words. You're just going to pick the answer that you think is correct for each question. Awesome job today, students. And on the PowerPoint, I put a slide at the very end. If you still feel like you haven't mastered or know the skill exactly, there's 2 videos that you can watch. At the beginning of the PowerPoint, if your native language is not in English, I put a link for Google Translate where you can translate all the voice stuff and the words that are on the PowerPoint. Thank you. Good job today, boys and girls, and please now go to the PowerPoint.